If you're trying to preach to everyone, you will preach to no one. But if you try to preach to someone, someone will hear you. One more time. If you try to preach to everyone, no one will hear you. But if you try to preach to someone, someone will hear you. There you go. Clip that one. That's the goal. Because if you do preach with that one person in mind, someone will come up to you and say, man, I felt like you were preaching right to me. And when you do try to preach to everyone, no one's going to come up to you and say that. Right. And I can imagine, all right, this lesson is for Timmy. I'm going to teach Timmy. I'm going to preach. This lesson is for Timmy. But I know Cassandra's going to come up to me, or I don't know. But afterwards, Cassandra will come up to me and said, oh my gosh, I felt like you were preaching right to me. Because even though I preached the message for Timmy, God spoke to Cassandra. And yet, if I try to preach a message to everyone, I'm going to have a 20-minute intro. I'm going to have a 5-minute watered-down lesson. And then I'm going to have a 10-minute outro. I only spent 5 minutes teaching and 30 minutes trying to justify that 5-minute teaching, or whatever the math is. I don't math good. So what do we need to do? Okay, we know we've got literal case studies of marketing that works, promotion that works, communication that works, that speaks to one person and ends up communicating to a lot of people. And we also know that when we try to preach to everyone, no one hears us. So what are we supposed to do? How do we know who we're supposed to preach to? Not preach to. I'm stuck on preaching now. How do we know how we're supposed to promote our church, to our internal members, to our congregation, to our leadership team, and then also to our community? Because I don't want to alienate someone. Well, guess what? If you say we're a church for the family, people that don't have families aren't going to feel alienated. They're going to say, I want a family. I need to go to here and figure out what I need to do, or how God needs to prepare and open my heart so I can better equip my family. And hey, if you're like, if you're a divorced man who's had a divorce later in his life, but has kids with families, he's going to go to church and he's going to say, you know what, this is where I'm going to learn how I can better equip my kids to have success in their family. And then, of course, if you're a kid, well, you're probably going to that church because your parents went to that church, because it equips them to have a better family. And your message doesn't have to be, we're a church just for families. If you're not a family, don't come to our church. That's kind of where looking at who are you reaching now and double down on who that is. And I know what you're thinking right now. Well, if I look at who I'm reaching right now, if I look inside my church to see who God's equipped us to serve, there's all kinds of people. There's a few young adults. There's a lot of older folks. There's a few silver-haired folks, which silver-haired folks. And then there's some married people, divorced people. There's a lot of young people. There's not many 30 or 40-year-olds. Maybe that's because I'm a 50-year-old pastor. I don't know. So I'm reaching all kinds of different people. Who am I supposed to pick? And if I do pick, will I lose those existing people? No, because you're looking at the differences. You need to look at the similarities. And this is the magic message. People have paid me thousands of dollars to ask this question, and they find much more success by me asking this question. Instead of examining all the differences in your people, what do they all have in similar? What do they all have in similar? What do they all have in common? What is similar among all those people? People tell me, oh, I got all kinds of different people. Perfect. What do they all have in common? Let me tell you, they're all just trying to make a better life for their family. Perfect. I think that's perfect, because we know that better life is achieved through a relationship with Christ and in fellowship with others. And so your message is not make a better life for your family at Bill and Ted's Excellent Church. No. Your message is God has something great for your family, and we want to show you what that is. That could be your message. Now, obviously, I would want to refine that a little bit. You're not going to find your message in a 30-minute YouTube video or a 30-minute podcast. It takes literally, it takes a lot more time than that. Now, we've got a really streamlined way at Nava Church Marketing to get that message for you in less than 30 days. And in that 30 days, we get you a message that's going to reach 10 times more people in 90 days. because you're going to know exactly who you're equipped to reach and communicate that message. And that message, even though you're shooting for that bullseye, you're going to reach a lot of different people. And instead of trying to figure out what target you're going to hit and be worried that you're not going to hit the other targets because you are going to shoot for that one target, when you do shoot for that one target, you're going to hit a bunch of other ones. And so look at who you're reaching now, and don't look at all the differences. Oh man, we're hitting a wide age gap. We're hitting multiple generations. So we got to try to reach all those generations again. No. What do they all have in common? You know what? We're hitting people that are struggling because they're diseased people. And they came to our church and God healed them because God's given us the gift of healing. Perfect. Double down on that. Well, you know, God's given us a lot of blue-collared workers. We have young blue-collar workers that are construction folk. We have older blue-collar workers that are the foremen. Perfect. Lean into that. Your work does not define you. God defines your identity. Find your identity through our work here at this church, because they don't want their identity in work. They may not even want their identity in their family. They know their identity needs to be found somewhere else. Your church can equip them for that. Right? And then maybe you are the family church. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people will say, why does so many churches want to communicate to families? What about everyone else? Well, if you communicate to families, you're going to hit the other people that want that family, that want to save that family, that want to re-heal their family, that want to build that family. That's okay.